Welcome to the She Wins podcast. I am your host, Alisa Devine, award-winning and best-selling author. When one woman tells her story, it inspires more women to do the same. Domestic violence thrives in secrecy. So to eliminate it, we tell our stories, we open the conversations, and we identify changes to be made. And that is what we are doing here today. It takes a woman an average of 7 times to leave a domestic violence relationship until she finally leaves for good. And I think that is, on one hand, it's very mind-blowing for people on the outside to understand that. And then it totally makes sense from their perspective of being in it. So I just want to shed some light on this subject of how common it is to leave and to fail at leaving, and then to go back and to leave again and to fail again at leaving. And it's okay. Like, that process is okay. Of course, we want to, say, but don't you understand? Don't you get it? And I've even had someone say to me, I know this woman in an abusive relationship and she will not leave. And I just feel like I want to, hit her over the head and say, why don't you see this? And yet it's very frustrating for people on the outside to understand how they keep going back. And, what I want you to understand, and that I think we need to discuss, is how difficult it can be to be in that situation, because there's often so much manipulation and lies and empty promises that are going on that, you're not hearing from the man, to the woman to get her back, because when she leaves, he's lost all control. So then he is trying to manipulate and control to get her back. And, there's the part on the woman that can be really tricky. And that is, maybe she feels more worthy in a relationship, even if it's not healthy. Maybe she feels that she's worried about her children, the safety of her children, or how she's going to take care of them. And that is her reasoning for going back again. Maybe it's because he's told her that no one wants her. Who's going to want her if she's had kids? Or who's going to want her because she's broken or she's damaged or there's something wrong with her? Or who is going to support her, or who is going to love her in this certain way. And so I think the conversations that we need to have to change this is to help women to understand how to love themselves, how to trust themselves to make it on their own, how to listen to their intuition, and I will say this because I entered into my abusive relationship at the age of 16. And according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, women who are most at risk for being in an abusive relationship are those women between 18 and 24 years of age. Okay, so several times we had broken up and gotten back together. I mean, there were red flags from the beginning of my relationship. And I think that young girls are susceptible to not knowing what a healthy relationship is, for one, and also not knowing what the signs of an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship are. So it can be very tricky to decipher the difference, because there is the man, and I'm saying, men and women in general terms. I know it happens across genders, and it happens to everyone in every way. And for my situation, I'm using the term of men being abusive, but it happens, it can be very tricky because young girls are not always equipped with the confidence, with the self-esteem to know the difference between love and manipulation and control. I remember him getting jealous about me talking to any other guys, when we were in high school. And I kind of thought it was cute, like maybe it meant that he loved me so much that he didn't want anyone else talking to me. And I look at that now and I'm like, that's so damaging. That's so destructive. That's not healthy. And we need to have those conversations with kids in junior high and high school, with young adults. We need to start talking about healthy relationships and the differences between healthy and toxic relationships. We need to talk about how important it is for young people to find themselves and to find what lights them up before they seek to have a relationship with another person. I really strongly feel like when people are young, when kids are young, that it is their number one job to find what it is that lights them up, like to get active in their communities or in their work or in their school, to try different experiences, to travel, to, get used to making money and budgeting and living on their own, and so often I think it's very common for people to seek validation or to seek their worthiness or to seek their value from another person. And what really needs to take place is finding their value and their worth in themselves, in ourselves. And it doesn't matter, like I'm saying this for young people, and I think that also it's so important for all people to do that. If you've been in an abusive relationship and now you've left and you're starting your life over, or even if you haven't left yet, but you've been thinking about it, I strongly, strongly urge you to take time to find yourself, to find what it is that lights you up, to find your why, to find your purpose. And it's not just one purpose. You can have several purposes, but to start to find those, to, create a life that you love and that you're happy with. And that should be your number one priority, not finding someone else right away. And I'm not saying that that is wrong. I'm saying that when two people are the best versions of themselves, that's when they can create a healthy relationship. So if you do want, and I remember, when I left, I knew that I wanted to have a healthy marriage. And I knew that I wanted to create, a new relationship. And I also knew that I needed to take the time to find myself and to put myself back together and to create some independence, and I had time to do that. And I think that, when we focus on that, we can come into a new relationship being the best person that we can be. And when we're doing that, we also attract other people who are in their best situations. You know what I mean? Because if, say, we come out of a relationship and, we're still feeling maybe vulnerable, still kind of not sure, where we are in life or in work, or, we're going to attract someone else who's like that. And so that's why I say that it's so important to spend the time focusing on yourself, doing self-care, looking at your past. Is there anything that you need to heal? Like, what is it that you want to upgrade in your life, or you want to improve, or maybe a goal that you want to set that you've always wanted to do and you just haven't had the time or the reason, to do it. What is that? And what is a move that you can make in that direction? Because when we begin showing up, feeling good and thinking good and doing good things, we're going to attract the right people who are also thinking good and feeling good and doing good, right? And so isn't that where it's the healthy place to be? And so that is why it's okay to leave and to fail and go back and leave again. Because each time there's a learning process. Each time you don't learn a lesson and you go back, you're going to get that lesson again until you learn it. And so, I will say that there's many times that I left before we got married. And I knew that it was, not healthy, but I thought that he would change. And he told me that he would. And so I always did want to give that second chance, because what if he did? And then the first time that I filed for divorce, we had only been married for a year, and I was 22 years old. And I went back because I was 22, because I was at most in the age group most at risk. And I went back because he told me that he would change. And I went back because I wanted him to change. I wanted him to be a good person. I went back because I wanted a family more than anything else in the world. And I went back because my priest told me to forgive him. I went back because I had weaknesses at the time. I wasn't sure of myself. And I went back because, one of my doctors told me that men can change, and so it took me 13 more years to learn the lesson that his actions would never match his words. And so that was a long journey. And, had I maybe been equipped to love myself at the time, to really focus on my desires and what I wanted for my life, maybe it would not have taken me that long. Maybe I would have been able to leave for good a lot earlier. And, even in those next 13 years, as I mentioned, it, took me that long to learn the lesson. I think I probably left maybe 2 more times after that as well. So, I was close to the 7 times of leaving that it took. And I think the biggest lesson that I had to learn in order for me to leave for good was to be validated that the abuse that I endured was definitely abuse, that I had been through enough to say I'm leaving, because I did question it. I did question it because it wasn't just about me. It was about the children that we had together, the extended families. It was about the other people that it was going to affect. And so, looking back at that now, I was not strong enough in myself to know that I deserved it. I deserved to leave just because of me, just because it was not healthy for me. But I wanted to make sure that it was also not healthy for everybody else too. And so right, wrong, or indifferent, that is part of the process, and it's common. But I think when we open up these conversations and we talk about these issues and we shed light on them, and other women begin to say, hey, I felt like that too, and maybe we can lower that number from the average of 7 times it takes a woman to leave until she actually does for good, to maybe once or twice. What if we could do that? What if we could do that together as a society, through education, through awareness, through sharing our stories, through talking about it, through having safe people to talk about, the issues with, What if we can do that? What if we can make the world a better place? What if we can learn to love ourselves more and to feel worthy and to feel valuable and to know that we get to be the best versions of ourselves? Thanks so much for participating in the #SheWins conversation today. If you have questions you'd like me to answer on a future podcast, or if you're looking for advice, or if you're ready to tell your story, email info@alisadivine.com.